This is an excerpt from our Occult Detective mini film festival. To hear the full episode, click on the link in the description. And now, on with the show. If you decide to watch these films in this order, and you're watching Lord of Illusions, and you follow it up with 2024's Longlegs, directed and written by Osgood Perkins, there you're going to see Nick's comments really play out as a stark contrast in directing styles between Clive Barker, who, as I was watching the movie, I thought kind of felt like he was being shot for TV, some of the framing and stuff, whereas Osgood Perkins has an amazing artistic sense about directing and framing shots. Literally and I watched it again just before recording this, every single shot of 2024's Longlegs is a moving photograph in a good way. Everything's lined up perfectly. On one hand, everything is really square and kind of flat looking. He manages to find a straight line somewhere in the shot and keep it straight. But I think part of that effect is there's such a consistent visual tone all the time. It made the movie flow really smoothly. I felt like I didn't completely leave one scene going into another. It wasn't jarring. One scene could just move into another because it would be framed similarly.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't seen Longlegs before this, so I watched it. And, I was just like, whoa, that was really fun. That was really good. Like, it was just everything about it. The way that the acting was, just how there was kind of in this FBI world, there's like this taken aback kind of psychic FBI agent woman who's kind of occulty in a way, and then her boss who's kind of more just the typical run-of-the-mill, FBI agent, just like, all right, well, we got to figure it out.
But he's not dismissive, and he's not hard on her. She's been tested by the FBI, and kind of they found evidence of her psychic ability, which I thought was a really neat scene.
Yeah,
because she was able to psychically guess shapes and things 50% of the time, which is, I guess, higher than everybody else. And she points out, well, yeah, it's only 50. That doesn't prove anything. The movie establishes that, magic is real, and she does have these abilities. But that conversation I love because it kept it kind of grounded. While she has these abilities, they're not so fantastic that she can do like anything with them. She's not Professor Xavier.
Right.
But she's just enough that she can in tune where things are. We're talking about Micah Monroe, who plays the lead character, Lee Harker. And her supervisor is played by Blair Underwood, which is really fun to see Blair Underwood in this. He's so cool.
Yeah.
One of the first scenes that establishes Lee's character is she's sent out on one of her first missions. There's a serial killer that they're trying to track down, and she and her partner at the time, like new recruits, they're just partnered up right then. They go into this neighborhood to knock door to door and ask if people have seen this man that they're looking for. And before her partner can go to the first house, she just gets out of the car and says, nope, it's the one across the street. And her partner is our everyman who doesn't know what she's talking about, thinks it's really weird, and says, no, we're not doing that. And she's just keeps saying it with this blank look on her face, just uncompromising. They walk over to the house, and she's right. The killer's right inside. And I love that as a way to establish that she has these abilities. They are real, and they are effective, but they are not so fine-tuned, or they can even take her by surprise.
Right. And there's something special about her as a result, too, because she was with a guy who was just as experienced as she was in the FBI, and he just got, taken out.
He gets, by the way, he gets blown away as soon as he knocks on the door.
Immediately. Yeah, because he just doesn't have that sixth sense. It's kind of, I was talking to a buddy of mine today, and he was like, that's kind of like Sixth Sense, or not Sixth Sense. This movie's kind of like Silence of the Lambs. And I was like, yeah, kind of, but in the Jodie Foster just having that special thing where she could connect in a particular way, it's like, I can see that. I can see that.
And to be fair, the character of Lee Harker also does a lot of great detective work.
Yeah.
And does her fair share of investigating, not only with her abilities as things come to her, but she puts the legwork in to track down our killer, who goes by the name Longlegs, and is played by Nicolas Cage. I've said before that my theory on Nicolas Cage is sometimes he has a character he wants to play or a style of acting he wants to try out, and he will bring that to a project, and if the director isn't strong enough, Nicolas Cage will take over and do his own thing, and then that's when you get weird Nicolas Cage. But if you find a director that's willing to work with him and has a vision of his own that he can get Nicolas Cage to subscribe to, then you get really amazing dramatic Nicolas Cage who can still be weird, and that's what we get in this movie. We get a very well-crafted, weird character from Nicolas Cage that is unnerving and so creepy.
Yeah,
and gives him a
right
chance
from the get-go.
Yeah,
when he's introduced, like, I put on my long legs, then he squats down to talk to the girl, and you just see kind of the half of his face. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, his face looks almost like someone who's had a lot of plastic surgery. I don't know, and they never explain why he looks that way. The character of Longlegs is a doll maker. He makes these very eerie, life-size replicas of little girls who he is targeting. Again, killing small girls in the name of evil.
They kind of look puppet mastery.
They look puppet mastery, yeah. But they do one shot of they have a square straight-on shot of one of these dolls, and it fades out, but it fades out into a shot of Nicolas Cage's long legs. And for a half second, when they both are at like 50% opacity. So you're seeing the doll face and Nicolas Cage's face at the same time. And that to me was a visual cue that, we're supposed to see his face as doll-ish or doll-like, as if he maybe crafted his face himself somehow. I did like when you brought up that when we first meet him, the phrase he uses, "I've got my long legs on," I realized was kind of a cutesy phrase an adult might use when talking to a child.
Yep.
To represent like, "Oh, I'm bigger and taller than you. Let me take my long legs off or whatever and get down to your level," which is something I've learned is a very responsible and respectful thing to do with kids. When you're talking to kids, you don't need to stand up tall and look over them and make them crane their necks up. If you can get down on their level and talk to them eye to eye, that's a better way to have a conversation with a kid.
However, in a movie like this, you realized, this is going to be about child murder, isn't it?
It is, but it's also kind of about childhood and growing up and the traumas and privileges that entail growing up.
Sacrifices of a mom as well.
To protect a kid, like how far would you go?
Yep.
That scene where he says, "I've got my long legs on," it cuts from that right to Lee Harker being an adult, and in the meeting for the mission we were just talking about with all of her FBI peers, and the FBI director or chief officer explaining what's going on, explaining what their instructions are, the first thing he says was, "Okay, kids, this is the part where you get to do the things the grown-ups don't want to do anymore." And it sets the tone going forward for the rest of the movie that there is a power dynamic between adults and kids. There is kind of a road to growing up, or in the case of Lee Harker, she was meant to be a victim of Longlegs, but her mother decides to become Longlegs' accomplice to protect her daughter from being a victim. One thing that's repeated is Lee Harker was allowed to grow up because of this sacrifice. So the whole movie kind of circulates around the difference between being a child and being an adult, and kind of where that changes.
And the sacrifice of her mom, actually, I would say, is almost paramount to her extraordinary kind of psychic ability as well, because that kind of grew out of that too. So it's like this sacrifice that the parents made allowed for this daughter to have this ability to be the best at what she wanted to be.
There's a lot of individual character relationships that also reflect this, like with her boss, Agent Carter. He comes into things as obviously her superior. She is the younger, the minor to his major, but he drinks a lot. She doesn't drink at all. He's constantly asking her to explain things because she's figuring things out faster than him and better than him. It kind of reminded me of somebody's dad who doesn't know how to use computers or doesn't know how to use their new phone, where supposedly he's the authority in this dynamic, but she knows more and she's ahead of the game and having to explain things to him. She also has the same relationship with her mother. After her first day investigating, she goes home and calls her mom, and her mom seems to be a little out of it, but the way Lee talks to her mom is differential, like you would be with a child, where you're looking out for them, checking on them to make sure they're okay, but still recognizing that mother-daughter dynamic of that You know, if her mom tells her to say her prayers, she says she will say her prayers. She doesn't, because she's actually in charge of herself and is the one actually looking out for her mother. So there's a lot of that. And then that's where our villain comes in as someone who is wrecking child, so destroying families, executing power in a vicious way that steals life and cuts people off before they have a chance to become adults. And that sacrifice, that transgression, is supposedly what, through the magic spell of these dolls he makes, is going to connect him with the darkness, and he'll live forever.
And I think that the most interesting thing for me with the dolls and the killing thing, is how the whole movie, you're set up in this mystery that you're just like, what is happening here? Because you know that it's this serial killer type person that's doing this, but they can never find evidence that he's there. All they have is his letters.
Yeah, the murders are done by the family members themselves.
Right. It's like a murder-suicide thing, but they always have the letter from this killer. That's how it's like there's a serial killing going on, but there's no evidence that he's ever there. So it's this weird, like, whoa. How do you figure that one out?
It's a great whodunit. It's great,
yeah.
all the way to the end. Even when they seem to, in the middle, when they seem to explain that the dolls are able to execute some kind of psychic power over the family and turn them on themselves, there's still more mystery, more mysterious layers, all the way up to the end.
All the way to right. Yeah, exactly. It just keeps on. As soon as you find something or catch someone or figure something out, then you realize, oh crap, we missed this part of it. There's this part of it. It gets so much more complicated.
It's really great storytelling. And I love,
absolutely.
I do love a movie because it's a given that things supposedly happened before the movie started, but we can't concern ourselves with that. We have to accept that only what we're given from the beginning to the end of the movie is the whole world. So when 3/4 of the way through a movie, I'm having a lot of questions because it seems like we've wrapped things up. We've caught the bad guy, or we've killed the bad guy, or whatever. And what else is going on? I do appreciate a movie that recognizes its own loose ends and ties them up.
Yeah, and almost the loose ends are part of the mystery.
Nope.
Yeah.
This was so well done.
Yeah, I agreed.
So this is the same guy, the director and writer of this, also did the adaptation of Stephen King's The Monkey that's now out in theaters. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't. I remember I've seen Monkey Shines,
which is
the original one that was, yeah.
Tell us about. I have not. Do you mind giving me 2 cents on Monkey Shines?
I just remember it was a monkey made people do some really fucked up stuff, and it was really bloody. I saw it when I was a kid, so it's been a long time. But it was that the monkey had psychic powers over the person, and they were trying to get rid of the monkey.
Oh, cool! That I have not seen the original or this one yet, but watching Longlegs again, I was thinking I'm going to watch the next Osgood Perkins movie. Okay, I might go check out. Might have to do a double feature of the original and the remake.
Yeah, I mean the original. I remember it was not a good movie.
Well,
but it was a
whenever
scary
I saw
movie.
the box art for the original Monkey Shines, and it was just that toy monkey with cymbals that claps.
It was a great trailer.
Okay, well, if you say it's a great trailer, it must have been a really good trailer.
I think it was just like a voiceover and the monkey just like doing this, and the camera just got closer and closer to the monkey. It was just doing the cymbals thing.